One thing that I wanted to focus on this episode was on the hottest trend for 2024. And we said it earlier. We said it earlier that the hottest trend for 2024, what we list as the number one trend, is the power of storytelling. And the power specifically of storytelling through visuals, pictures, and videos, and how that maximizes the engagement and really the awareness of a brand. And recently, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, who is again known as Mr. Wonderful and also Maple Man, as many of you guys know, and who was featured, I think, for over a decade on the show Shark Tank. He was one of the most influential and imposing members of the Shark Tank cast. And Kevin O'Leary, since Shark Tank, has become one of the biggest influencers in social media and someone who really has a very incredible close grip and pulse on the future of any industry. And recently he was chronicled as providing what he feels is the number one degree, the number one academic training that will dictate future success. So let's take a look at this video, and then let's react to the video as Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, details why he feels storytelling will be so important and so powerful in the generation to come.
If 3 years ago when I was asked this question, what degree gives you the highest chance of success in a career? Number one would have been engineering, number two engineering, number three engineering. And generally it's the graduating cohort of engineers, and about a third of those classes go on to take their ideas, turn them into patents, turn them into businesses. But I've changed my mind in the last 2 years, and I'll tell you why, Evan. Since the pandemic hit, the number one demand I have for my companies are people that can take the concept of the business and tell a story about it. Produce a video, do really rich photography, build out 59-second, 39-second, 29-second videos, 14-second videos to plaster all over social media to sell product direct to customer. So if you're a graduate from the arts, or you're a writer, or you're a photographer, or an editor, or videographer, all of a sudden I'm paying you $150,000. And I would have thought I could have hired you for nothing because you were a starving artist.
Now that we saw the video from Mr. Wonderful, well, let's expand on what Mr. Wonderful said. And I think for me, the number one thing is that when you are able to show a video or pictures, you're able to evoke emotions. I think for me, the emotional connection to the audience improves because you're almost able to create a connection with the audience, right? Whether it's a brand, a product, or a service, when you are able to connect emotionally with the audience, it fosters a stronger and a more memorable, powerful relationship with that product. So the number one thing that from that video to me is storytelling basically creates an emotional connection to that brand. What do you think?
First thing I thought about was just attention spans and engagement. Everything's becoming very fast-paced, very efficient. You can get any amount of information the palm of your hands with technology. So people's attention spans and engagement, it's becoming harder to grasp, and attention spans are becoming shorter. So more visual storytelling through those videos and anything that's going to grab and engage a listener or a potential customer. It's going to be easier to retain attention and information because it's told in a way that is going to engage the listener, engage the viewer, so that they can retain that information longer with a shorter story that's told to match the attention span that a lot of us do have.
Yep. And listen, storytelling injects something that is so necessary in any brand, any marketing platform, any campaign, and that it injects and infuses a story with what's called authenticity and transparency. And consumers are increasingly valuing authenticity and transparency from businesses, right? Because a lot of them feel bait and switched. And storytelling, especially when it involves real people and genuine stories, what does it do to a brand? It creates increased trust and credibility to that brand, which you're going to be more connected and more invested in that brand.
Yeah, that was actually my next point with storytelling is brand differentiation. There's always going to be competitors in your field, so it's important to communicate a unique narrative. And I did mention on the attention span, if you can collaborate all of that together and give yourself a unique narrative, it'll help identify your brand's identity, your values, your purposes, and making something memorable in the midst of all of the consumers in the competition.
You know one thing, Brittany, that storytelling has the power to influence and persuade. You know, I've always said that the stories that have the power to influence and persuade by framing the message in a compelling, relatable way are the ones that consumers are more attracted to. You know, whether you're marketing a product, whether you're presenting data, whether you're conveying a vision, storytelling enhances the communication to always be persuasive. And I think that's how you're able to influence and persuade a customer, a consumer, through storytelling to remember your product.
Yeah, that's a great differentiation there, is the remembering of your product and your brand. So is your story memorable, and does it allow for consumers to recall that information quickly and concisely? So by incorporating storytelling into more of a business brand or messaging, it can increase the likelihood that their consumers are going to remember that brand, recall that information, and it's going to build your consumer base.
There's no more powerful way to build that consumer base through storytelling than to really leverage multi-channel marketing. What is multi-channel marketing? It relates to social media. Right now, we can post anything on social media and be shared with the world, right? And that video content, when it's shareable and it quickly reaches a broad audience, it amplifies the narrative that you're trying to relate to the audience.
Well, think about the flip side. We can also, with storytelling, be able to have more relevance to certain demographics, certain cultures. You can actually aim your message to the right culture or to the right group by being able to engage in more storytelling ideas. So people increasingly are trying to find brands that value their beliefs, value their cultures, and it can also help contribute to positive societal or environmental change. So a lot of groups are trying to be more environmentally conscious. So this can also expand and or aim towards demographics that are valuing that same message.
I think with the rise of storytelling, we're also going to see a natural adaptation to commanding the visual communication with our customer. We are in a day and age that we are seeing, Brittany, a rise in what we call visual-centric platform marketing. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, they're attracting customers through the trend of visual storytelling. Short-form videos, visually appealing graphics, and interactive content, really, that's become the staple of effective communication. And no area are we seeing that more through storytelling that in TikTok, you're able to see in a minute. In Instagram, you're able to see in less than 30 seconds. In YouTube micro content, you're able to communicate. And again, that's what the visual communication trend is, that people are absorbing less material more frequently.
Yeah, I like the aspect of visual storytelling because it takes away any verbiage or content, which allows us to reach more global audiences too. So it doesn't have a linguistic or cultural barrier to be able to get your story told, because the image is what provides the words. So it allows more connectivity from a global aspect, which is exciting for companies because then they can share success stories, they can share their mission, share their message to more than just one continent, which gets very exciting.
And I'll tell you one thing that we cannot forget when we talk about the power of storytelling is how important it is and how impactful it is in increasing employee associate engagement, employee culture. Why? Because when you're internally telling a story, it's crucial for building a strong organizational culture, structure, but also engaging employees. And when you share success stories, company values, company mission, and you show a company the human side of the workplace, that's the thing. When we show the human side of the workplace, that naturally, Brittany, boosts the morale and the loyalty of a company. So storytelling will be very important, not only in the ability for you to connect and engage and procure new customers, but in the ability for you to maintain your most highly valuable lifeline, which is your human capital.
I think that's a really good point to make, because when you can engage both the employee and the consumer, you're able to make sure that any change that is necessary can happen at both levels. Any growth that's necessary can happen at both levels. So I think at the end of the day, we just have to understand that behaviors change, especially from a consumer level, but also from an employee level. So you do have to keep them engaged on both sides of the coin. But more importantly is consumer behaviors are constantly changing. So we have to make sure that while we're telling our story, that we're also adapting to the changing mindset and behaviors of today's consumer, which is really what we went into detail to expand on Mr. Wonderful's video, is the fact that it's going to forever change. So what we see today is going to be different than what we see a year from now. So as we get into 2024, we're going to listen to the consumer. We're going to expand upon the idea of storytelling and position our mission so that we can attract any audience, and we can also target that same concept.
Listen, I think we can all agree after watching Mr. Wonderful's video is that storytelling through videos and pictures, it's going to become very crucial across every industry in 2024. And I am extremely honored and excited about B360 because Bedrock Media and Production, B360, our company, aligns with the changing consumer preferences. It facilitates emotional connections. It provides a powerful tool for communication, differentiation, and it will influence in a highly competitive and dynamic business landscape the one thing that everyone covets, and that is the engagement of the end user and the consumer. And by us being able to be the agents of change as it relates to storytelling, I think that, again, we are so unbelievably well set for 2024. That video, Brittany, I think is something we're going to look back a year from now and say, wow, we are spot on. We're over the target. And not only that, we are going to become the benchmark, the gold standard, the trendsetters of storytellers. And I'm excited about that for 2024.